that would be either the Star Wars franchise or the Fast and Furious franchise, are probably the two biggest other franchises. And of course, James Bond has been out there for quite a while as well. But really, when it comes down to it, Fast and Furious is one of the longest running franchises, and Star Wars has got a lot of stuff going, and it's got both TV and movies, and the TV directly interacts with the movies, as does the new Marvel stuff. So DC really has to work hard to keep their market share um, in movies, and to realize their dream of making a cinematic universe as close to on par with Marvel, if not exceeding Marvel, as they can. And they can only do that with a successful release of movies like The Flash. And The Flash, of course, is going to have such huge controversy around it. A lot of people are going to have to decide if their dislike of Ezra Miller should be reflected in a dislike of the movie, or can they separate the art from the artist? Because, I mean, the movie was made before we knew all this stuff with Ezra Miller. So going to see the movie is not necessarily a tacit agreement in Ezra Miller or support of Ezra Miller. It's rather a support in the studios, because all of this was made and supported prior to knowing some of this underlying information, and it should not punish the other actors in the studio and the producers and writers and stuff that were involved, because it's a case of somebody fooled everybody, kind of thing. So yeah, so they've got these three basic things that they can do. They can either bring out the movie without the fanfare, they can send it directly to HBO Max and scrap the theatrical release, costing them quite a bit in overall release receipts, although they will get more subscriptions, because some people will really want to see the movie enough to subscribe to HBO Max, even if it's just for 1 month to see the movie. And they may discover when they subscribe that there's a lot more content on HBO Max they like, and so they'll stay. And the third one is to actually go ahead and try to recast all of Ezra Miller's parts in the movie, causing a huge additional delay. And this movie's already been delayed on top of delayed on top of delayed. And that will mean that they're going to have to spend probably another 150 or so million doing it. I'm going to click over to... Oh, I thought I had a Facebook up here. I may have just closed it by mistake. I want to see if Lurch is trying to contact me on Facebook, because I might need to reboot my Discord if it's still going. Let's see. Okay, that's Festival Champion. That's the wrong one. Rebooting my computer. And I lost you on Discord again. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close my Discord and then open it back up again. While we're doing this, let me take a second, because last time that helped him re-log in. So if you're listening to the channel, Lurch, I'm rebooting Discord, which okay, because you should still be able to hear me for this. And open up Discord. Give us a second here.
Hey, Doc.
Hey, there we got Lurch back. Okay, so it worked. Rebooting Discord worked.
Okay, good.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do my cam in the Discord window and see. Well, no, I kind of have to do that, because otherwise you're in the wrong window, I think. Let me double check. Yep, you're in the wrong window. I gotta do it that way. Uh, there we go. Okay.
All right.
And bring that back up. Okay. Let's hope this works better this time.
Yeah.
We're going to move on, though we're pretty much done with the Ezra Miller thing. I've basically stated the 3 options that they have and all the ramifications that it could have with the new DCEU because, I mean, let's face it, this is the gateway to the next stage in the DCEU, and there's so many upcoming movies that are going to touch on Supergirl and the 2 Batmans and everything that happens after this Flashpoint event.
Yeah.
And so they really have to have this movie come out before they have other movies in their catalog come out, or they'll have to be completely redone as well, costing even more money and screwing things up even more.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, Warner Brothers is having a rough time lately with their actors. Between Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, Ezra Miller.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just not doing well at all. Amber Heard's not going to get into another movie with Warner Brothers. And she's basically going to be... she's got... I guess one of the recent test footage came out for Aquaman 2. And you come to find out... Because she was complaining that she only had like 2 or 3 minutes of airtime. But it actually... She's of dialogue in the movie. But the most recent test footage shows... there's reports that she actually had like as much as 20 minutes of dialogue, which is like 4 to 5 times as much as she thought she had. So they're still giving her more time than what it's not affecting her career nearly as much as she's trying to claim it as.
I think one thing we've learned that's true from the trial is that nothing Amber says is true.
Yeah, she over-exaggerates everything, I pretty much believe. And nobody really wins in that trial, whether you believe Johnny or whether you believe Amber Heard. And for the record, I believe Johnny, because there's too many people coming forward on Johnny's defense in this case. And it is something a lot of people try to get away with, is abusing men because nobody will believe that a man is abused in a relationship. And it does happen. But nobody truly wins because now... seeing Amber Heard lose in the accusations is going to discourage a lot of women from coming forward, unfortunately. Because they'll say, what if I'm disbelieved like Amber Heard was? But with Johnny Depp winning, at least that's going to encourage men who are being abused to come forward. But it was a no-win situation, and it's a no-win situation that whoever is lying, and I'm going to say it was probably Amber Heard, put everybody into. So that was a very selfish thing.
I would say the biggest thing is this case discourages lying one way or the other.
It should discourage lying, but it's also going to scare some people into not coming forward because their side of it didn't get believed. And that's the downside. And I'm hoping that it doesn't have a huge effect. It's already so hard for people to come forward. And I want to encourage anybody, if you're being abused, honestly, you come forward.
I don't think this is going to have any impacts in that regard because I think it's very clear that she was lying a lot.
I happen to agree with you, but there are always the people that are because when you're going to
people that are foolish out there that can't see that don't recognize the sky is blue, but that doesn't.
But there's also people that are scared and will use anything to justify their fear, and that's the problem here. And so I'm hoping that people don't take this to heart and add to their own fear, and instead realize that if somebody is abusing you, no matter what, come forward, tell somebody, and start the ball rolling, because the only way that you're going to stop this kind of abuse, and this is a public service announcement from us, the only way you're going to stop this kind of abuse is by telling somebody so that that person not only cannot abuse you, but cannot go on to abuse somebody else later too.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it stops. And that's abusing women, abusing men, abusing children, any kind of abuse.
Yep.
Stop the abuse. Okay? And that's all we're going to say on that subject because we're not a soapbox. We're trying to keep these light and happy.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to go on to Lurch's first topic and get off of the negativity of Ezra Miller for a while.
Yeah. So, Final Fantasy VII had a 25th anniversary the other day where they did a Square Enix did a Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary celebration stream on Thursday, and I, for one, and was very excited to see this. I wasn't expecting much out of it, because anniversary things oftentimes is just like merch stuff, which they did show some merch stuff. They had some like cool clocks and wristbands and things like that, but they'd have some big announcements here. One of which, the Final Fantasy VII Remake sequel, Part 2. They announced its title, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They announced it's going to be Part 2 out of 3, so they're making Final Fantasy VII and the remake into a trilogy. They said that Rebirth will come out not this winter, but the winter after. So we're looking at either, somewhere between like November, December of 2013 or February of 2014. So we have a time frame of when to expect Final Fantasy Rebirth. And then also, and I knew that was going to have to be announced at some point, right? We knew that game was coming. And they showed a little bit of a trailer for it. Looks freaking beautiful. It showed a clip of like Sephiroth being playable from the looks of things. I can't wait. And then the big surprise, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is getting a remaster coming to all modern consoles: PS4, PS5, Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch. This game, Crisis Core, has been locked to PlayStation Portable since it came out. It hasn't been on anything else. Not on Vita, not even available in a digital storefront anywhere. It was only on disc on PlayStation Portable. They're finally bringing it this winter to all modern consoles. Remastered with some updates. They showed a little bit. They had a trailer for that as well. That is the most surprising news for me. I didn't think we'd ever get to see Crisis Core finally coming to something modern. The title of that is going to be Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. They also showed off a teaser for a game called Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which is a mobile phone remake of the original Final Fantasy VII. For a mobile game, it looks pretty good. I'm not sure if I'll play it. I might download it and give it a try, actually. But I don't normally do mobile games, so I'm not sure if it'll hold me. But it looks good for a mobile game anyway. And then they also had, let's see, like I mentioned, they had the clocks and whatnot. And then the other announcements weren't quite as big. They announced that Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is on Steam. Forget what the release date was for that. I think it was pretty much now. Yes, June 17th. So it was the other day. Basically, the following day after the announcement, the PC version of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade became available for purchase on Steam.
Nice.
So, and they even, during the presentation, they even took a moment to show it on the Steam Deck, so that you know that it's Steam Deck compatible.
Nice.
Which, I don't know about you, that Steam Deck is looking better and better every day.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty good promos for the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Now, on the subject of reunions, that just brought something to mind because I was watching it like an hour before the show. I just finished watching a little TV show premiered 25 years ago in March, and they just did a reunion less than a month ago, and I came across it on YouTube called Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah, they did a
They
reunion.
did a cast reunion, yes. with Josh Whedon there. And then they also, and I didn't watch the other one, but they did the 20th reunion for the Angel TV show, which was the spinoff that happened 5 years later with David Boreanaz. But the cast reunion had Sarah Michelle Gellar, Josh Whedon, Allison Hannigan, Emma Caulfield, Amber Benson, Nicholas Brendan. You know, it had pretty much everybody. Anthony Stewart Head wasn't there, which surprised me a little bit. And guy who played Wesley, I can't think of his name, wasn't there. But Charisma Carpenter was there, and of course she's married to Wesley in real life. And Seth Green was there, you know, and they talked about a lot of the stuff of the making of the show and its original genesis as they were doing it for their 25th anniversary. And it was actually a really good anniversary stream. Speaking of anniversary streams. But I had not planned it as a topic today, so that's all I'm going to say about it. I just wanted to mention it because you brought up anniversaries, and that was an anniversary of probably Josh Whedon's seminal classic.
Yeah. They also showed Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier, which is a mobile game. It's going into season 3. It's an online multiplayer game, so they showed some new content for that. That's not really my jam. And then let's see, they had some cute statues.
Yeah, I saw the statues, bracelets, and clocks.
So the biggest ones, like I said, Crisis Core Reunion, and you know the remaster of that, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I can't wait for that. But
Final Fantasy VII is still long been considered the best of all the Final Fantasy games. It is probably the highest rated on the internet and in the gaming communities. It is the one. I mean, there's other people have their own personal favorites, but 7 is probably universally liked. Cloud is everybody's favorite, and it's everybody's favorite versions of the Aeons.
It is certainly. It's probably the most popular. 6 is also very popular amongst the Final Fantasy crowd. I haven't played 6. I've been meaning to.
But 7's popular among the non-Final Fantasy specific crowd.
Yeah, that's true.
7 is played by just about everybody that tries it.
7's got a movie, the Advent Children movie. It's got multiple spin-off games like Dirge of Cerberus and the Crisis Core and these remakes. It's got, and I feel like I'm missing something.
Cloud gets some of the most cosplays of a Final Fantasy character. Those kind of things are just.
I'm a little bit biased in part because this was the game. Final Fantasy VII was the game that really introduced me to RPGs.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm young enough to have grown up with, Mario RPG and some of those others, but for one reason or another, I did not have any of those. I didn't have other RPG games. I didn't have Final Fantasy 3 or whatever,
Right.
I got Final Fantasy 7, on the PlayStation because my mom was tired of me beating my games in just a couple of days. And so she went to the game store and asked them what was a popular game that would take me as long as possible to beat. And so they sold her Final Fantasy 7. And I played it. I got like an hour into it, decided I hated it, and turned it off. And then a month later, I had a friend over who saw the game in my collection. He's like, "Dude, I love this game." And I was like, "Really? I thought it sucked." And then, he booted it up, and we went through it together for a bit. And then
once you go through it with a buddy, it's better.
Yeah. Well, here's something: is I didn't understand how RPG games worked, right? And I was a little kid. I was 8 years old or something.
Hey.
9 years old.
Trust me, I got into D&D at age 7, but I wasn't expected to know what these things were back then. I was a little old for my age.
I didn't know what a potion was, right? I was just a dumb kid that was choosing fight, like action, attack, and that's all
Well,
I was
yeah,
really
you're
doing.
8 years old. That's
I
what
was
you
like-
think. Combat
I
games
was
were bread and butter.
I was like, attack, magic. I didn't like, and so what got me so upset is I got to like the boss fight with the scorpion, the scorpion robot, the first boss fight in the game. And
It didn't have any
if you don't know
magic
what
left.
you're doing, he can be pretty tough. And I didn't know to go to items and use a potion to heal myself. And so I just kept getting killed over and over again. And him showing me I could go to items and use a potion and heal one of my teammates
And Phoenix
completely
Downs.
changed
And
what I could do with this. I was like, oh, I can now beat this fight. And then I went on from there and ended up loving the game.
Once you get the item stuff going on and also the leveling up and stuff, once you learn how to do that, RPGs become obsessive. You really want to play them.
Yeah, and so I ended up putting in hundreds of hours into Final Fantasy VII as a kid.
But that's the good thing about having a friend come over and playing with you, is the friend is going to point out stuff you might have missed because you were just you were unfamiliar, and a friend is also going to add to your enjoyment just because you're sharing the experience. And that's great. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So 7 has a special place in my heart because it's what got me into RPG games in the first place. So I understand that I probably have a bias. It will probably forever be my favorite overall RPG because of that.
I mean, I pointed it out as the number one, and it isn't even my favorite. It's not my favorite. I like it, but it's not my favorite. But I recognize that it's the most favored one there is. My favorite's actually 10. I love 10.
My three favorite RPGs are Final Fantasy VII, Legend of Dragoon, and Digimon World 3.
See, I love Final Fantasy X.
10 is really great too.
Any of the Elder Scrolls, like Daggerfall and Oblivion and those. I love those. Elder Scrolls Online.
Oblivion, Skyrim, and ESO are the only 3 Elder Scrolls I've played. I've been meaning on going back and trying Morrow, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Daggerfall, I was a beta tester for. Daggerfall was great.
I hear that Daggerfall is really rough for newcomers, though. That's what I've heard.
Well, yeah, but it was the first time you ever got to play like that first-person caster sword fighter thing and really see yourself in like that full motion behind the shoulder kind of run around. And that first time, I mean, when I first played it as a beta tester, I mean, they hadn't even finished all of the textures yet, so I had big areas where I was at no textures. But
one day, just for the sakes of kind of filling out my knowledge of video game history, I want to give Daggerfall a try. It won't be anytime soon, but one day I would like to.
It would feel kind of clunky now after everything else you've played, but at the time it was so innovative that I mean, like I said, even without all the textures loaded, I was having a blast beta testing it. And then when they released all the textures for it, I was like, oh my god, this game is king. And then of course they came out with the next one and then the next one, and you're like, how do they do it? But they're just getting better and better and better. But you knew part of it was the technology and the engines were getting better and better. And that's the thing. There was something else that I saw today that was. It'll come to me. I saw something else in one of my things that I was browsing YouTube today, and the new Power Rangers series for Netflix is being worked at, and one of the showrunner is I can't remember her name now, but she was on the production team for Supernatural and several other great shows like that. So she's got a lot of good shows under her belt, and she's now going to be one of the showrunner for the new Power Rangers universe.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be coming out on Netflix. So that's something to look forward to.
So wait, like a series instead of a movies?
Well, they're supposed to be working on several projects,
Okay.
TV series, movies. Plus, they're still going to be adapting some of the old Super Sentai stuff. So the Super Sentai adaptations will still be in the vein of the old Power Rangers kind of stuff made for kids, where the newer stuff is going to be slightly older uh, target audience. So it won't be quite as campy, but it'll be better production values and stuff, and will also possibly tie into the movies. And the movies are going to come out more in the vein of what the new movie was for in 2017, but obviously restarted with some different writing and a different overall storyline. But that's what I understand. They didn't go into a lot of specifics, but they did mention it, and for the life of me, I can't think of the lady's name now. But anyway, let's go on to my Kickstart recommendation for the week. It's really going to be quick. It's a cyberpunk board game, Cyberpunk 2077 Gangs of Night City, the board game. It's got 15 days or 14 days left on it. It is finished as far as being funded, because it was asking for 100,000 US and they got 167,900 already. 14 days to go. And as you can see, it's a cyberpunk game with plastic molded figurine miniatures with some nice detail work, it looks like. Lots of bright, very cyberpunk techno colors with purples and greens. Black background. 90 to 120 minute playtime. Age 14 and up, 1 to 4 players. So it does have a solo play mode all the way up to a 4-player mode.
Oh, there's
And
a solo mode for the Cyberpunk board game?
It says 1 to 4. 1 to 4 means you can play it solo.
Yeah.
And that's always great because there's not a whole lot of games you can play solo. And sometimes it's hard to find that companion to play with, especially like during COVID times. It was really hard to get somebody to come over to play a game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's nice when you can play by yourself. You get to control
that's something I miss, man. I haven't had a group over for board games since the pandemic.
Yeah, I would really like to do another board game
And
night. In fact, in July, they're supposed to be doing an anniversary for metagames that includes a board game night.
yeah.
I don't remember what day it is. I'll have to look it up, and I'll report it next week's show if I can remember. But because 417 Gamers does Thursday night board game night at Metagames, and I don't know I don't remember if this event was a Thursday or a Saturday or what. I think it's a Saturday.
So I just heard about this board game about a half hour before we started our stream, but I was starting to prep to get my equipment and everything ready to stream, so I didn't have time to look into it.
What board game was that?
The one thing I heard though was that, or the one negative thing I heard was that the producer of it is a company they call CMOM, which I guess doesn't have very good, which apparently has terrible.
Oh, so you'd heard of this game too?
Huh?
You heard of this game before I even brought it up?
Yeah, I heard about this game. That's what I was saying. I heard about this game about a half hour before we started the stream.
So it just happens to be one we both heard of.
Yeah. And it interests me. I enjoyed the game. I didn't play it until it was like a year and 3 months old or something like that, and waited for the PS5 version to be finished and yada yada, and waiting for bugs to be ironed out. And even then, I still had it crash on me about every 8 hours on average. I was keeping track of it, and it was on average hard crashed on me about every 8 hours, not counting other bugs.
Oh, you're talking about the electronic game, yeah. But yeah, the board game is going to be a neat thing to check out. The very cyberpunk color scheme, I love that. The fact that you can solo play it is great. It doesn't look to be too much as far as setup, but it looks like there's lots of things to do, which is what I love in a board game. I don't like board games with only one or two things to do. I like lots of stuff to do. I like moving parts. That's why my favorite game is the dwarven mining game. Now I can't think of its name, but yeah, I love those kind of games because they give you lots of stuff to do. And this looks like it's got lots of different things to do. And it's got the individual gangs and the character cards and the sculpted minis. The in the plastic looks really good. You got the tiger's claws, the Valentinos, the Maelstrom, and the Voodoo Boys. And then the Edge Runners.
In my opinion, are you familiar with these games at all?
Actually, no. I have not played them on the electronic consoles.
Okay.
But I used to play the RPG.
Or other,
I used to play the tabletop role-playing games.
I assume the same games were in the tabletop role-play game. The Maelstroms are monstrous. They're the worst.
Yeah. But so it's going to be a really good game. I don't want to take too much time on it because I got a lot of topics today. But yeah, I like to give a Kickstarter recommendation every week if I can remember to do so. And this is this week's recommendation. You got 14 days to jump in on it. So it'll still be running after the beginning of the month for those who get paid monthly. And it's got 2 weeks for those who get paid every 2 weeks. It's got time for another check to come in because you got exactly 2 weeks left. And so the only problem is if you get paid on Tuesdays, it might be right close to the wire. If your next paycheck is like 2 weeks from today and you already spent this one. But if you want to get in on it, you can. Backing the project, I usually like to at least go to that page real quick and show you what the minimum pledge is to get something, which is the Edge Runner pledge is $110, which for big board games, that's not too bad right now. Board games can run anywhere from like $80 to like $150, depending on what game you're getting. But this one gives you the core box game, all applicable extra rewards, and the exclusive Edge Runner set, which was not originally, I guess, part of it. And that's really the only backing they've got on it.
Quick question: If you pledge to a Kickstarter, when are you required to make the payment?
The payment comes out usually within 24 to 48 hours after the end of the campaign. So they don't take your money until it's over with. That way you can always back out before the campaign's over with. Or if the campaign doesn't make that, it's an all or nothing thing. So if they're $1 short, then the campaign fails and you don't get charged. But you get charged usually within 24 to 48 hours, they run the charge. Sometimes there's a little bit more delay than that, but it's usually within the first 24 to 48 hours after the end of the campaign. So it's really pretty agreeable. Now, sometimes you might want to wait to pay a little bit longer, but that doesn't always work, which is why some things don't end up getting backed. But that's also why you usually want to make the campaign, if you're doing a Kickstarter, it's usually a better idea to go for the 30-day campaigns and not for the shorter option. But sometimes going for the longer option works because there used to be like a 60-day option that you could put for your campaign instead of just 30 days. I don't know what the current options are because I haven't run a campaign in a while.
Estimated delivery, July of 2023.
Yeah, usually they're not going to come out right away because they got to do a lot more development.
Yeah.
A lot of times these
Yeah.
things aren't done already. Unlike the printer we talked about last time, which is pretty much done,
Yeah.
and it was going to be delivered relatively quickly. And a couple of things that I've done recently have all been like mostly done, so that they could promise a relatively quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Like the Kickstarter that I did for that Fractured Online role playing game, the MMO, it's still in beta. They're still not delivered. I mean, they've delivered on alpha and beta testing,
Yeah.
but they still haven't released. They're hoping to release this year or next, but it could be another year or two.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm
and some
I went
things
to
don't
the
ever release.
I went to the Kickstarter for this one because I legitimately I really am interested in this board game. I'm just not sure if I can
Justify $110.
you know yeah, if I can afford $110 in the next 14 days, like right now.
Well, sometimes what you
I
do is you go ahead and do the pledge without a reward for $5 and see if they'll give you an upgrade option when it's over with. But if not, you're only out $5, but you've helped in the production.
oh yeah, that's
Because
true.
that's the thing a lot of people will do too is they want to put it on their list. They either put it in there like as reminder, or they go ahead and pledge like $5 or $10, knowing they're not going to get any
Yeah,
reward, but
yeah,
knowing that a lot of these things offer a pledge upgrade after it's over with. Um,
yeah.
so that's an option
Hmm.
for you too. And you can usually message them to see if they're going to offer any kind of upgrade capabilities. Tell them like you're not sure if you can, put in a pledge right now for $110, a little bit outside of what you can justify
Yeah,
before the campaign's over with. But if you were to willing to put in like a $5 or $10 pledge, would you have the option to do a pledge upgrade
yeah,
after it was over with, and see if they're going to offer that? Because usually they'll let you know.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to go on now to your next and final topic before the media, which is something to do with Tony Hawk, I take it.
Yeah, Tony Hawk. Okay, so Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, which was a remaster of the original two games put into a single package that came out, I think, last year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little further back. Maybe 2020. Um, was fantastic. The Vicarious Visions who made it did an amazing job with Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Then they started to work on a Tony Hawk 3 and 4, but then Vicarious Visions canceled that and basically merged them into Blizzard to support other Blizzard products, other Blizzard properties. And I don't remember specifically what it was they're working on, whether it's Overwatch or whatever. Um, and then, but despite them doing that, Activision still was interested in doing a new Tony Hawk game, another Tony Hawk game. So then they started taking bids from other developing teams to work on a Tony Hawk game, but they shot all those ideas down or all those proposals down. And this was something that was just revealed recently by Tony Hawk himself, saying that they were working on the Tony Hawk 3 and 4. And I would have so much preferred Vicarious Visions to have made Tony Hawk 3 plus 4 remasters after they did 1 and 2. But Activision Blizzard just does whatever garbage thing they want to do.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
and they also they take bids, but if the idea behind the bid is something that they can't get behind, I mean, you
yeah,
can't blame them for not
yeah.
getting behind something they don't think's going to
But
work.
here's the thing though, is like we know that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 would have worked with Vicarious Visions because they did it with 1 and 2, and it's the best Tony Hawk game we've had in like a decade.
Yeah, but like you
And they
said,
were
they
gonna
got assigned to other properties.
yeah. So Activision assigns the team that made the best Tony Hawk game in a decade to another project that they didn't want to do. They wanted to do more Tony Hawk, and then said, "Hey, who else wants to make a Tony Hawk? No, we don't want any of those Tony Hawks." So the future of Tony Hawk is really up in the air at the moment. I'm really, really hoping after Microsoft finishes acquiring Activision Blizzard that they let Vicarious Visions split back out and be what they used to be, and let them pick back up on Tony Hawk 3+4. That's my goal. That's my hope out of that project, because I freaking loved their remaster of the Tony Hawk 1+2. It was a lot of fun. It felt great. It controlled really well. It's exactly what Tony Hawk franchise needed to reinvigorate that franchise. I want to see them do that 3+4, and then I'd love after that for them to do Underground 1 and 2. Just keep that fucking shit going. I'm cussing a lot right now, aren't I? But you know what I'm saying. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. It's a pretty short story, but I found this very. And what's funny is I knew to pull this up. I knew to bring up the story because I happened to catch a video somewhere online of Tony Hawk talking about this on a stream, and so I saw it. Oh, was it? I think I heard it earlier today or yesterday, and I was like, I got to talk about this, and so I found a Game Informer article talking about it. But I happened to hear Tony Hawk talking about it already prior to finding this article.
And corporate decisions sometimes especially when a company takes over another company, they don't always know what's best to do with them.
Yeah.
And they're done. The decisions are made in boardrooms, just looking at raw numbers. They're not looking at real fan data, and so you don't know. But maybe, like you said, maybe it'll change.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, here's what we know. Bobby Kotick, who's in charge of Activision Blizzard, his whole mantra is, only working on the stuff that is the maximum profits. And even though Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 did really well, it evidently is not quite as profitable as whatever they switched them over to working on, which was probably Overwatch or Diablo or something like that. The newest Diablo game, I'm seeing people drop, thousands, $5,000, $10,000, and still not even get good equipment because of how terrible the loot drop is in that game. So I'm sure that's what they've been doing. Bobby Kotick has been having all these teams that work on more interesting, more creative things that, even though they're successful, might have a higher cost for development compared to their profit margin, and then pulling them all into just like a handful of franchises that are their most profitable franchises. Their Call of Duty, their Diablo, their Overwatch.
They're maximizing their profitability.
They're putting everything that has all these like loot crate things to, take advantage of kids with gambling problems. It's just it's getting gross. Subscription service games.
Anything that can support a microtransaction or an impulse buy. Yeah. That's the thing, because they have to maximize profitability. I mean, at the end of the day, for them, their number one motivator is the holy dollar. They have to make the dollar. And so the holy dollar is what they worship.
Oh my God.
They are total capitalistic companies. And it's nice when we get individual developers that are passionate about their projects, but they have to answer to people who are passionate about their paychecks. And so
completely off subject, but just something that popped in my head with that. Someone out there needs to do a cover song, like a parody song of Ronnie James Dio's Holy Diver. That
the holy dollar.
But it's holy money.
That'd be holy dollar. Holy dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. They need to do a parody that's holy dollar. I don't have the musical chops to do it.
I might write one. We'll see. I gotta memorize the original song so that I can write the parody.
Yeah.
It's like I wrote a parody to Brown Eyed Girl called My Anthropomorphic Squirrel about cosplayers. And there was another one I was getting ready to do, and I forget what it was. I was kind of looking at one. Can't remember what it was. It'll come to me another time. But I write parodies all the time, and so that one would be I go into right. Anyway, I'm going to go on to my next topic, and I've got like two websites to go up for it because it's kind of a two-parter.
Yeah.
Now, normally, Disney Days is in like November, December, Disney Plus Day. Uh, but and although we say normal, but Disney Plus hasn't been around that long, so it hasn't really established a normality yet. But they've bumped Disney Plus Day to September 8th this year. And partly because of Disney Plus Day, but also because of the other part of the topic, which is going to be the D23 Expo, which is the starts right after Disney Plus Day, which is the 9th, 10th, and 11th, is where they're going to be a lot of the Disney releases for the next phase and stuff are going to get their announcements. And so one of the big effects that this is going to have, why I'm bringing it up now and not closer to September, is that means that they're, okay, the rumor was that they weren't going to have any, but the rumor's obviously false. But they're going to have less of a presence at Comic-Con this year in San Diego. Because, of course, Comic-Con's in July. And they're not going to want to do too much of the release announcements in July if they're going to be doing their own big expo in September. So the Disney Plus Day, where they announce a lot of the stuff that's coming to Disney Plus, is going to be on the 8th of September. And then on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, they're going to do a lot of additional details on the Disney Plus shows, as well as talking about Phase 4's finish and Phase 5's upcoming release stuff with more plans. I mean, and they've already announced some tentative stuff. Like we should by then get a drop for the Wakanda Forever trailer. We should get a drop for the Mr. Miracle trailer, because they talked about the Mr. Miracle's been greenlit. We should get more information on Ironheart.
I think it's probably too soon to get a trailer for Mr. Miracle.
No, well,
But
we
at
might
least
get
a title card.
we might get a title card and a teaser, if that. Even if it's not a full-on release.
Yeah.
But Mr. Miracle has been at least announced. We've got a lot of work starting on the Wakanda thing. We'll learn more about what's coming with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. All of this kind of stuff in the Disney platform, which is the whole D23, because of course that's the new basic version of the Mickey Mouse Club, is the D23 Club. Everybody who joins D23 is the exclusive Disney Club membership thing. And so they do the D23 Expo in September, and that's when they're going to be doing a lot of the releases for the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. They're going to talk about things, and it's 79 days, 13 hours, 55 minutes, and okay, now the seconds have ticked over. And it's over at the Anaheim Convention Center, which is one of the biggest convention centers in the world. Okay, it's not San Diego Comic-Con's convention center, because that's not in Anaheim, that's in San Diego. But Anaheim Convention Center is right there in Anaheim, California, in Orange County, or whatever. And it's a huge convention center, and that's where they're going to be talking about Archives invites guests to explore 100 Years of Wonder. The biggest presentations at D23 Expo announced. They're going to do Masquerade 2022. Year-round benefits with the D23 Gold membership package, because there's all kinds of membership benefits you get to the Disneyland parks and everything, aside from the Anaheim Convention Center. And of course, the Anaheim Convention Center is also really, really close to Disney World, California. So it is definitely something that if you're a fan of, Disney properties, which of course Marvel is a Disney property, as is Star Wars, you're going to want to, pay attention to what's going on, even if you can't get to D23 Expo, because I don't see myself getting to D23 in September. But I will probably watch broadcasters from the convention hall, YouTubers and Twitch broadcasters who will be covering the event. And it's going to be where a lot of the newest premieres and stuff will come out. By then, they'll have some more premiere stuff ready for us. And speaking of Disney, are you still with us, Lurch? Oh, yeah. Yep. You moved. Yep. I wasn't sure you had moved for a second. Speaking of Disney...
I got a work message thing come up. So I'm not on call, but I'm like making sure the on-call notice the voicemail so he can get the issue fixed.
Right. Yeah, it has to do with being a boss.
Yep.
And I'm bringing this other thing up, even though it's not one of our topics this week, but we are kind of going to go over it because we can go over it in the media section. Lurch did finally get to watch the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So if we have time left by the end of the media section, we'll go over the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers too. Speaking of Disney. And now I'm going to just jump right from this into my vault recommendation, because then after that we can go right into the media section of the show. And I don't know if I've done this vault recommendation before. I think I may have. But it's been long enough that it's worth doing again, and it's based on one you mentioned last week, because it's one of the greatest movie trilogies to come out, and it's going further than a trilogy now, because of course I'm talking about the almighty dinosaurs, Jurassic Park. You mentioned that was the scariest movie, one of the scariest movies for you as a kid. And I can understand, because I rewatched the trilogy this weekend. And Jurassic Park is one of the best exhibitions of CG dinosaurs in a movie franchise going on. And I'm going to go on to count the Jurassic World. Unfortunately, I do not have the streaming service that has Jurassic World's 2 movies for free. But of course, we got the newest Jurassic World getting ready to release.
Oh, it's out.
Or it is just released.
Yeah.
And
it's
I
watched it Sunday.
Yeah.
I watched it over the weekend.
So, that's, this gives you a proper, real respect for how the dinosaurs could have been. Even though most of the dinosaurs featured in the movies were not from the Jurassic period of history. Jurassic Park sounded cool. But
there's a couple from the Jurassic era, but there's Cretaceous era, and just kind of all around.
Mesozoic era, yeah. It's not the Jurassic era, especially for like the Velociraptor and the T-Rex, which are the two really the feature, and the Dilophosaur. I love the hooded Dilophosaur. It's great when it does its hood and spits the acid. Yeah. That was scary when it did that on what's his name, as he's in the storm and he's trying to steal those embryos, and he looks up and he sees that thing. Oh, you're and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's like a hooded cobra flex, man.
Your mileage may vary on parts 2 and 3. They're not great. Parts 2 and 3 aren't amazing movies, but I still find them to be fun action flicks.
And at least they have the continuity of bringing in Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum to give some continuation for 2 and then 3.
Yeah.
Because
I'm gonna say,
Goldblum
though,
is back for 2 and Sam Neill is back for 3.
the original movie, the original Jurassic Park, is damn near a perfect movie.
Oh, it's
Uh,
fantastic. I
yeah,
mean, from the portrayal of the big dangerous dinosaurs to the gentle beauty of the herbivores. I mean,
yeah,
and what nerdy kid did not love dinosaurs as a kid? I
yeah,
mean, those were some of your favorite plastic toys as kids, was to play with the dinosaurs. Because I mean, I'm a fantasy buff and I love dragons, but dragons are partly modeled after dinosaurs.
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I love dinosaurs because dinosaurs are about the close to land dragons that we had in actual historical, thing. They're land dragons. They just don't spit fire, but some of
yeah,
them spit acid, and they do chomp on big ass things like the equivalent of rhinoceroses and elephants and smaller dinosaurs. So
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Um,
they're badass, and they are, like they said in the movie, the Velociraptor especially. They are more likely to be precursors to avians than they are to lizards. The
yes,
Velociraptor they have proven that it's much more likely that they evolved into modern birds than they evolved into modern lizards. Although some lizards that are around today were around in some of the dinosaur era, like the crocodile and alligator. Versions of that
yeah.
and versions of the shark have been around that long.
And here's something I appreciate that they put into the Jurassic Park movies that was there from the very beginning, but kind of overlooked. That helps negate any naysayers who want to complain about these not being realistic dinosaurs, right? Because, like, we've learned that raptors had feathers, and probably quite a few of them had feathers because they
May
are in
have,
fact
yes.
avians. But what's interesting is even from the very first movie, they tell you right up, you know, when Doctors Grant and when the characters are being introduced to Jurassic Park, they go through this presentation that explains how the DNA that they find of dinosaurs,
Is
because that's kind of the
incomplete.
premise, is they found DNA and they've created clones of dinosaurs. But there were gaps in that DNA, and they filled in those gaps with other creatures,
With
like
amphibian
uh,
DNA,
yeah, with amphibian
specifically
DNA.
African tree frogs.
Yeah,
And
like there's like a specific tree frog that
and
they spliced it with,
and
which
that was
helps
specifically why
explain
they could
any
swap
yeah.
genders.
So this DNA splicing with any other animal helps explain away any difference between what we got in the movies and what we learn about real dinosaurs and what they really should have looked like. And I don't want to give away like any spoilers for the new film, but something they did in the new film is there was some new creatures, new dinosaurs in the new film where they were like, hey, here's some dinosaurs that are not modified in any way. This is their original form. They're like all very feathered and shit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is they get closer and closer. And of course, in the Jurassic World series, they were saying they were specifically trying to engineer a new dinosaur, not just recreate an old one. They were creating a new one, especially in the second one. And so we know that not all of these are supposed to be accurate. In fact, dinosaurs are the closest thing to a kaiju that you're actually going to find.
Yeah.
In actual historical records on the planet. They're the actual kaiju origins.
Yeah, it's actually pretty neat because like Jurassic World 1, the big thing about that is they created the Indominus Rex, which is this massive hybrid of T-Rex and Velociraptor with elements of a cuttlefish and
Megalosaur and a couple others. Yeah.
And then it was like extremely smart. It could blend and camouflage.
It had some of the intelligence of the Velociraptor. It had some of the camouflage capability of the
So they,
Yeah.
they made a monster in that one, and then Jurassic World 2, they basically took the Indominus Rex and miniaturized it and made it to where it's a little bit bigger than the Velociraptors. It's a decent size bigger, but it's not T-Rex sized or whatever.
About
So they
halfway
made it
between
smaller.
the two. Yeah.
So they made it a bit smaller, so that it's closer to a raptor size, but even as smart or potentially smarter than the Indominus Rex from the previous movie. Then also engineered it so they could have like this laser targeting system, so they could make it attack people on command with the use of this gadget that they have.
And of
And then there's
course,
other things happening, of course, in the movie, but that was kind of the most biggest dangerous thing there.
and going
Then
on
the
to the
third,
Jurassic World series, they also brought in something that they mentioned in some of the older movies, but they didn't really feature, which is the pteranodon, the pterodactyl family of
yeah,
the flying dinosaurs, because
yeah,
they should have been able to, among other things, once they no longer had a dependency on that one chemical, they should have been able to cross over to other islands and stuff, because they're flyers and they were long distance flyers, and they were basically big ass flying piranha, man. They eat anything they can come in contact with. And so
yeah,
me as a dinosaur junkie, I loved it. And I can see, I mean, I was older when they came out, but I could see where someone of a younger age saw that first movie. I could understand why that would scare the shit out of you, because when that Dilophosaur fans his ruff in that storm, he may look small and cute, but that was intimidating. And that's the
yeah,
purpose of those kind of ruffs on like a hooded cobra. It is to be bigger and more intimidating. That's the whole reason for that genetic mutation in creatures. And they showed that off really well. And so if you get a chance and you've not seen one of the original Jurassic Park movies, go back and watch the Jurassic Park. If you've only experienced the Jurassic World, or worse, haven't even seen those, go experience the world of Michael Crichton, because Michael Crichton wrote the original books that these are based on. And if you ever get a chance to read the books, definitely do it, because Michael Crichton is a great writer.
yeah.
And the Jurassic Park books and the Jurassic World and Park movies are well worth your time. Even the ones that aren't as good as the first ones, because the first ones in both series are great. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World 1 are the best of both trilogies. Well, I haven't seen the third in Jurassic World, so I can't say on that.
I would still agree with you on that. I think you're right.
But the first in each trilogy is the best of the trilogy.
Yeah. I liked Dominion. It wasn't quite the movie I was expecting it to be, but I liked it. But I still think that the first Jurassic World is the best of the Jurassic World movies.
It generally speaks, most of the time, very rarely is a sequel better than the original. There are some exceptions, but most of the time there aren't. Exceptions include things like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, or
Terminator 2, Judgment Day,
Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. You know, those are the ones that are typically the exceptions to the rules. Usually the first one is the better movie. Obviously, things like Highlander 1, much better than any Highlander that came afterwards. RoboCop 1, better than any of the other RoboCops.
Especially the remake.
Anyway.
But anyway, we're going to get off the vault. And like Allison said, especially any of the remakes for RoboCop, including the cartoon. The cartoon was, I mean, it was geared for kids, so it couldn't be nearly as bloody or explicit as the movie. But anyway.
Is my video frozen for you?
No, you're moving around just fine.
Okay, my video is frozen, so.
Oh.
But as long as it's still working on your end, then we're fine.
Yeah, no, I can see your mouth move and everything. So, okay, so we're going to get off the vault and go into the main media section of our show. So I'm going to reiterate here. Obviously, we don't worry about a spoiler alert for The Vault because these are older movies, and you know there's going to be spoilers in an older movie. But there are going to be spoilers now for everything going forward. So if you've not seen any of these, you might want to pause this, come back to it on YouTube. It'll be up within a week on YouTube, and go watch the shows, and then come back because we're going to spoil a bunch of this stuff otherwise. And first, we're going to start with Obi-Wan. We got the second to last episode of Obi-Wan this week, and a lot happened. I didn't do a rewatch today, like I've been trying to do before the show, a rewatch and stuff. But I bet you Lurch has watched it more recently than I have.
The Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
I watched it the day it came out, so I watched it a week ago.
And you didn't watch it again?
I have not watched... Oh, crap. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay. I guess okay, so, no, I've only watched it the one time.
Okay.
I would like to watch it more, sure, but I've
There's
got
so much to
a finite
watch.
amount of time.
Yeah.
I got...
What was that beep?
Oh, that was my work message.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I watched it just the once as well, and it was on the day it came out. So we might not be as fresh this week as we are with some weeks when it comes to these shows, because I've not done my normal thing of going back and watching stuff over again to give myself a refresher, because I can't wait to watch it. I got to watch it as soon as it comes out. In fact, I watch it even earlier than Lurch does, because I watch it like at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes as early as 4 o'clock in the morning I start watching as soon as they show up. So, but Obi-Wan is great. In this case, the third daughter, who had been promoted to the Grand Inquisitor, ends up by the end of the episode turning on Vader and attacking, because Obi-Wan convinces her of the fallacy of the Empire, and she basically becomes a distraction for Vader while they escape. And she's a pretty badass fighter. I gotta admit, the third daughter, as she's called, or the Grand Inquisitor, is a pretty badass Jedi Sith Lord.
Yeah, Reva?
Yeah. I like how they call her the third daughter, or
The third sister.
or the third sister, not daughter. I don't know why I keep saying daughter. Third sister.
Nah.
They call her the third sister, or Grand Inquisitor for a while there. But then, of course, that one Inquisitor shows that she basically was just promoted to be a potential scapegoat later, and they scapegoat her out because, of course, they got her to turn on Vader anyway. So she gets defeated.
Yeah.
They find the tracker that's in Leia's Lola bot.
Yeah.
So
So, the rebels, or rebels, I don't know if that's the right term here, but, these
the
escapees,
precursors to the rebels.
yeah. They're trying to hide, or, they're trying to escape. Vader's on the way there because of the tracker and everything. Reva shows up with a bunch of stormtroopers. Obi-Wan's trying to stall them with a small handful of fighters while they finish getting a ship ready and getting this door open,
Right.
which is stuck closed.
And
So Leia has to climb into this thing to try to
through
get
the
the
duct
wiring
system.
fixed.
She's the only one small enough to do it.
Yeah, she's the only one small enough to fit in there. Ends up being kind of this whole thing, but they once she's in there, she's able to or Obi-Wan ends up surrendering himself to Reva, and then is able to quietly talk to Reva and talks her into helping him because she was, stabbed by, or she was attacked by. She was one of the younglings when Anakin came and killed, and we get to see that in the flashback scene. We see Anakin, killing younglings in the flashback sequence. We also see flashback sequences of Anakin and Obi-Wan, training and having conversations in the past about.
And that's actually a lot of the episode is that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flashback, and it's actual footage from the movies.
Most of it isn't. Most of it's new footage that they filmed, and they used like de-aging on the actors.
Well, I recognized some of the footage. Some of it was from stuff because I remembered some of that from Obi-Wan's lecture to Anakin as he was training him.
Well, the scene that we came back to like 3 different times of them in that circular area in training and doing that fight, that was all new footage. But they did do some reused footage from the movies for like, Anakin choking Padme and the fight on the lava and on Mustafar and all that stuff. They reused some of that footage, but that training scene of them in that circular area and them having that little that training conversation, that was all new footage that they filmed.
Was it all new?
And used de-aging on the actors.
Could have swore I remembered the conversation with Obi-Wan and Anakin about his how he was all attack and no strategy kind of thing that he didn't plan ahead.
I'm pretty confident there was some statements along those lines in the movies somewhere, but that specific scene was all new footage.
They just may have reused the dialogue a little bit.
People are even like memeing it, being like, "Yeah, it's great to see them and see this, see them training again or whatever." People are memeing it.
And see Hayden Christensen and
yeah.
Okay.
They're like, we finally, and then some people are saying, "Oh, finally, a reason to have Hayden Christensen come back for this," because they had to, film those scenes. Because when he's in his suit and he's wearing the helmet, that could be anybody wearing that.
That doesn't need to be Hayden at all, right?
Yeah. And James Earl Jones is doing the voice when he's Vader wearing the helmet,
right?
So
because he was always the Vader voice. Right.
So for the most part, other than these flashbacks and then a couple of short clips we've seen with the helmet coming down and up, or him in the Bastha tank, and even in the Bastha tank, that could easily be faked with a different actor. So really, the only things that we've seen that absolutely had
or it could be 100% CG
was the flashbacks that they filmed.
Right. But anyway, I definitely recommend watching the episode. And this time we're not spoiling too much because we're not remembering it all 100%. But go back and watch it if you haven't had a chance. It's worth it. Obi-Wan, like I said, is still my favorite character from the Star Wars franchise.
I want to mention, we get an incredible fight between Darth Vader and Reva.
Yes, we do.
Darth Vader doesn't even draw his saber on at all. He keeps his saber on his hip. He doesn't draw at all. She's using her dual wielding thing, and he is purely beating her through skill and force. And he's just messing with her, man. Like, she's coming in with the lightsaber, and he just blocks it with the force.
That's because, among other things, Vader is not just a Sith Lord. He's almost more a Force adept than a Force Jedi. He's much better using the Force. If you ever play the tabletop role-playing game for Star Wars, there's 2 Force classes. You could play a Force Jedi, which is the Jedi Knights, or Sith Lord if you play the evil, or you can play what's called a Force Adept. And a Force Adept doesn't necessarily focus as much on lightsaber battles and stuff, but their ability with telepathy and telekinesis is off the scale.
Yeah.
And Vader, in a lot of ways, is more a Force Adept than he is a Force Jedi. He just happens to be really good with the saber. Yoda's the same way. Yoda, although he's technically a Jedi, is more a Force Adept who actually happens to be a lightsaber expert.
Yeah.
But he is better with use of the Force than he is with anything except maybe use of the saber. Because Yoda is supposed to be the absolute master of the saber.
Yeah.
And
so anyway, it was just a great fight because like he does that and then he like disarms her. He uses the Force to yank her saber out of her hand. It's a dual saber, right? And then he just splits it in half and then tosses one of them back to her.
yeah, he's very nonchalant about some of the stuff he does.
Yeah, he's very dramatic and he is going out of his way to prove a point that she never stood a chance against him.
Yeah, so if you get a chance, definitely watch the next Obi-Wan. And the next one will be the final one of the first season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this will be so tomorrow's episode will be the last of the Obi-Wan episodes. And then we'll only have Miss Marvel dropping on Disney for a few weeks as far as new episodes go. But that's okay because this week and next week we'll have the last 2 episodes of Superman and Lois and The Flash. And then those will both be done for the season.
Yeah.
And then we're not sure when we're getting another offering in the Arrow CW verse. So we're going to have a little bit of a lull period again until Stargirl starts, and Stargirl may not start till like October
we still have
year.
The Boys, and
we will still have The Boys for a few more episodes.
We got
Umbrella Academy will be starting. What now?
We got Miss Marvel.
We have Miss Marvel. Umbrella Academy will be starting. And Stranger
Umbrella Academy
Things
comes out this week.
The last 2 episodes of Stranger Things
Umbrella Academy
coming
season
out.
3 comes out Wednesday.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
And the last 2 episodes of Stranger Things are coming at the end of the month, in the beginning of next month.
Yeah.
So we have some stuff, but we are going to have a couple of weeks that are going to be slightly lighter. But that's okay because we got so much more going on, period, that even lighter weeks are just going to be kind of like going back to normal. We just won't be doing a CW coverage for a little bit, which is kind of rare for us. But next on the agenda, speaking of the CW, let's hit the CW. Okay, there was no Superman and Lois this week, but there was a Flash this week. And it was an intense episode. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of random things happening.
Okay. First of all, with the Flash in this episode, we were dealing with a variation of Eobard Thawne. And we come to find that the girl that Barry had started training at the end of the last episode, that was the new speedster in town. As Barry, he goes to the lab saying he's a friend of the Flash to check out her equipment. And lo and behold, who does he meet? But Eobard Thawne in his original face before he took over Kavanaugh's face. And so we have Thawne, the original man in the yellow suit, which is why the episode is called The Man in the Yellow Tie.
Yeah.
And he's...
Which is a Curious George reference about...
Right,
because
the man in the yellow hat.
Owner was the man in the yellow hat,
Yeah, which is kind of a funny, throwback. But Eobard Thawne, we come to find out, has no memory. All he can not remember a lot of his short-term stuff. He does remember that he's meant to build a speedster, and that he believes he's meant to be a speedster, which goes along with Eobard Thawne's obsession with being a speedster. which came from him tapping into the reverse Speed Force. And so Barry runs to Argus to talk to Eobard and find out what's going on. And they end up figuring out that it's probably an alternative version of Thawne that may have been caused by the different things that have happened in recent episodes, including something that happened with the Legends of the Tomorrow when they came across a version of Thawne as a keeper of a fixed point in time, if you remember from that episode a few weeks back. And so it may have caused another Thawne to be generated within the multiverse in such a way to where we have another version of Thawne. It turns out that this Thawne is a nicer, more caring Thawne who actually had the capacity to love. And the girl ends up getting supercharged with the reverse Speed Force and corrupted. And they have to stop her. And Thawne actually talks her down. But right after Barry consults with Eobard in Argus, he leaves, and then Eobard's like, okay, you can come out now. And John Diggle walks up. Because he had been waiting for Barry to leave before he came to talk to Thawne. And he was talking to Thawne because he had heard that Thawne, with his future scientific knowledge, might know how to open that case he's been carrying around that had the green glow that had closed on him, and he had not been able to open them since. And he had been going around and popping up in a couple of other episodes trying to get other people to open that case for him. And it's why he talked to Luke in the Batwoman episode. Of course, you don't watch Batwoman, so you didn't see that. But he did a cameo there where he got Luke, which is what's his name, the tech guy for Batman's son, to look at the box to try to open it, but he couldn't open it. And he's also taken it to Cisco to try to get Cisco to open it, and other people he's tried to get it to open it. And Thawne explains to him how he can get to open it, which is basically to be in that moment of acceptance of change in your life. And so he does, and the cost that Thawne asks for his help is that he wants to be able to see what's in the box. And so Diggle opens the box and he looks into it. You see the green glow, and you see some like images kind of flash through Diggle's mind, mostly through his reactions, but you kind of see a couple of glimpses. And then he slams the box closed and throws it away, and it kind of evaporates into space, causing Thawne to freak out. It's like, wait, no, I was meant to see what was in that box.
We never see what's in the box.
We never see what's in the box. We just see a green glow, just like that last time.
Yeah.
But we pretty much know that what's in that box is probably a Green Lantern ring.
Yeah.
And this shows a semi-official canon denial of the Green Lantern mantle for John Stewart, a.k.a. John Diggle. And David Ramsey's character then basically sets himself up to not take on the role of the Green Lantern as of yet, which may be what frees him to take over the mentorship role for the new CW show, the Hero U, or whatever they're calling it. Justice U, I think it's called. Justice U, where he's going to be the mentor of a bunch of other young metas. And it might have interfered if he had the Green Lantern ring. He would have been too much of the focus, because the Green Lantern ring is one of the most powerful objects in the DC multiverse. And so this is why John Diggle probably had to refuse it. But that doesn't mean it won't be offered to him again or offered to another person to become that, because we do know that we're supposed to still be getting a Green Lantern series for HBO Max at some point. We haven't heard any updates for it in a while, but we're still supposed to be getting like a Green Lantern Corps show for HBO Max, among all the other shows that we're supposed to be getting for HBO Max. So, that's the thing. We also know that in the next 2 episodes of Superman and Lois, Diggle is going to show up in one of those 2 episodes, at least, if not both. So John Diggle is going to be involved in that, and David Ramsey is going to be, he's doing some of the production work on them. And he's turned out to be a really good producer, because he's executively produced a few different CW-verse episodes in different shows since the Arrow series ended. And they've generally been highly regarded episodes. And so we're going to get more of David Ramsey, in addition to some other cameo stuff by the end. Also, just to let people know, if you've been watching the DC Prime comic book, which is the canon comic book to the CW verse, the last issue came out, and I don't personally read it. My eyesight's not good enough to read most comic books. But if I could get it on digital, I might. But Kara Danvers shows back up in the last episode. And I don't know all the details, but it's the first return of Supergirl in anything related to the CW verse since they ended the season of Supergirl, which is a very exciting thing to find out about. Because Kara is one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe as well. She's often rated as having higher strength than Superman. So it's nice to see that. And Diggle is supposed to, like I say, show up in Superman and Lois. And there's a couple other things that are supposed to show up in the next 2 weeks. Among other things, Sam Lane is supposed to explain in a speech in either the next episode or the final episode how Superman and Lois links to the overall Arrowverse.
Yeah.
So we're finally going to get the actual link up to that. Because we know it's something, we know that they're technically in the Arrowverse, but they've always kind of kept it at arm's length in Superman and Lois. So we never quite knew the closest we've gotten to a real link is when Diggle has been on as a guest.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were the Superman and Lois of Crisis, the official Superman and Lois of Crisis.
Yeah.
But that's the only links we've had.
The thing that's weird is that, Superman and Lois had a baby, like a single baby, and Supergirl, I think. And
right. But then Crisis happened, and there was a few changes.
Now they have twins that are teenagers.
Yeah, they had switched to twins. Last we'd heard they were still kids, and now they're teenagers. And yet this is supposed to be happening in the same time frame. So Sam Lane is supposed to come in and explain some of this to us.
Yeah.
So we'll find out in the next 2 episodes. Plus, Diggle is supposed to be, or is rumored to be, not supposed to be, but rumored to be introducing the next big bad for the next season. He's supposed to be the one that's helping foreshadow the big bad for season 3. And that gives a lot of people are fan theorizing that it may be somebody we know from like Arrow or one of the crossovers coming back. So we could get somebody like a Vandal Savage type character, or Lex Luthor, or
I,
something
I hope it's not
along
Lex
those lines,
Luthor. I'm done with Lex Luthor.
or Damien Dark, or something along those lines. Because remember, one of the vulnerabilities that Supes has is magic, and Damien Dark is a magic character.
Yeah.
And whenever you're doing Superman as a serialized thing, you have to really push to give Superman challenges. Now, when we last left Superman, he was powerless, and he was healing up as a mortal.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to go on in these last 2 episodes. Is he going to get his powers back by the end of the season? Or are they going to leave us on that cliffhanger going into the next season? Is another question that's going to be answered in these next 2 episodes, because we're going into basically World War Bizarro, or Bizarro War.
Yeah.
And what's going on with these next 2 episodes is Bizarro War Part 1 and Part 2 are the finale episodes that start tomorrow. Actually starts tonight if you have actually the CW to watch live, but starts on the stream tomorrow. And Flash will get its first of its 2-part finale on Thursday for us, which is Wednesday night on the CW. So we've got a lot to anticipate in the CW verse. And then we are on a waiting game for Gotham Knights, Justice U, and Stargirl, because we don't know when any of those are going to come out for us. And other than that, do you have anything else to add for the CW verse?
I don't think so. It kind of seems to sum it up.
I mean, I'd covered a little bit during the Ezra Miller thing about how there's some fans that want Grant Gustin to take over, but I don't think that would work. Other than that, I don't think there's much else. I mean, don't get me wrong, Grant Gustin is a phenomenal Barry Allen, but he doesn't need to stretch himself into the movie. I did hear that when he renewed for the next season, they had given him the option for a multi-year renewal, but he declined it. He wants to take it on a year-to-year basis. So next season may not be the last season. They may go to season 10. And it partly may depend on how Grant Gustin feels near the end of next season.
Yeah.
So we're also going to get next season a little bit later in the year. So it's not impossible that it'll be close to 2024 before we get to see season 9. So we don't know what's going on, how much delay we're going to have, and what's going to happen in the interim. But the CW and DC period is in all kinds of upheaval, and it's just we're waiting to see the dust settle and find out what all is happening and what are we going to lose on the cutting room floors. Because there's all kinds of mess still going on in the DC Warner Brothers catalog. But as long as Berlanti has something to say, I think we're still going to be in for some treats. Because Greg Berlanti is as close to the Kevin Feige of DC as we're going to get, I think. Berlanti's probably the best genius they've got helming any DC projects. Especially since they won't give us the Snyder Universe as canon. I wish.
Yeah.
Okay, on to our next subject, which is, of course, the 7, because we have the boys. Okay, when we talked about the last episode, both Huey and Butcher had taken a like V29, which is a like 24 to 29 hour soup pill. Well, not pill, injection that allowed them to fight on a soup level. It gives Butcher the nigh invulnerability and a precision laser eyes, where it gives Huey super fast healing and the ability to teleport. Although when he teleports out of his clothes and everything. His clothes don't go with him for some reason.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So every time he teleports, he's going to be
Naked.
nude.
He's naked, yeah.
It's something that's funny that they do with the show that other superhero things don't do. Is, you know, like in other superhero programming, the clothes, except for like the Hulk, the clothes kind of tend to come along with your abilities, right? Like you have, if you teleport, your clothes teleport with you. If you're bulletproof, your clothes tend to not get bullet holes in them like Superman and whatnot.
Yeah. If you shapeshift, you use something with unstable molecules in your suit. Like the Fantastic Four with stretching, or the Human Torch with bursting into flame.
His suit is
fireproof. Or
fireproof.
the Invisible Girl becomes invisible, and so does her super suit. Her regular clothes, she has to basically get naked originally, but once she gets the Fantastic suit, it reacts like her. And that's explained. Or like with Barry Allen, it gets a suit that fits into his ring, and with his super speed, he can pop it out of the ring and get into it real fast.
In The Boys, we had that character in the first season named Translucent who could turn invisible, but only if he was naked.
Yep.
Like his clothes didn't turn invisible.
Right, just like early versions of Sue Storm. Right. Yeah. Before she got better control over her powers and could make just about anything invisible. But Translucent, like you can see in the picture here, Translucent, you see a suit with no head and no hands. Because Translucent is invisible, but his suit is not. And that's the thing. But The Boys is allowed to do, being that it is a Amazon Prime show and it is rated TVMA, it can also show things like genitalia and sexual congress and such, because it is a very adult targeted superhero show. And hero is stretching the term. Super, yes. Hero, maybe Starlight. But the heroes of the show are actually the boys. Because they're the ones kind of fighting for truth, justice, and stopping the supers' way. Because the supers are neo-Nazis and freaking money-grubbing capitalists and freaking damaged individuals. But anyway, in this newest episode, Huey has promised Starlight, after he admitted to have taken the compound V29, has told her that he's never going to do it again. They don't have any more anyway, but he wouldn't do it. And it's just us against the world. And he tries to get points for having been honest with her. And then what happens? Butcher comes into possession of some more V29 through his contact with Maeve and Queen Maeve, and they both take it again. And Huey had promised he was going to, but his justification was, who do you want with you on this op? Poor, timid, scared of his own shadow Huey, or confident, able to help Huey? And Mother's Milk is not really sold on this idea. So they end up drugging Mother's Milk because they are not there to try to capture Soldier Boy like they think. So that's who they're going after, Soldier Boy. But they're not there to capture him. Butcher wants to make a deal and use Soldier Boy as a weapon against Homelander. And Soldier Boy in case I didn't mention it last week, is played by Jensen Ackles from Supernatural.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of supernatural attachments to this show. We've got Eric Kripke, who created the Supernatural TV series, is the creator of this TV show.
He's created a lot of great
showrunner.
shows. Yeah.
Bobby, the actor who played Bobby Singer in
is one of the
Supernatural.
senators.
He's playing a character named Robert Singer, who's like a politician or a president or something like that in this show. And now we got Jensen Ackles.
Yeah, he tends to still play the character named Bobby, no matter what.
Yeah.
It's Robert Bobby Singer. Yeah. But yeah, so and the Deep takes over criminal analytics and then fires everybody but one person. Because any of them had ever said anything even slightly critical of Homelander, they got fired for not being team players. So there's one girl left, and Starlight.
I think there's three. I think there's three in the room that are there.
Seems like there's one left.
We're only focusing on the one girl.
And then Starlight's talking to her, and she's like, "We're all that's left." What? Yeah, Deep came in and fired everybody. Anybody who'd ever said anything critical of Homelander was released as not being a team player.
Yeah, including like checking their social medias and everything.
Right, so they're like stuck, and they used to have an whole room working like 24/7 to do some of the criminal analytics, and now they got like maybe 3. Starlight is, and that's one of the things that gets Starlight to go out and try to catch up with Huey and the boys to try to get in on their most recent raid, and they catch him just as they find out that Mother's Milk has been drugged and that they're making a deal with Soldier Boy, which of course Mother's Milk never would have went for because Mother's Milk's family was killed by Soldier Boy.
Yeah.
So he was no way was he going to make a deal with Soldier Boy. But Butcher and Huey have convinced themselves that their best option for getting rid of Homelander is Soldier Boy with his practically a nuclear detonation from his chest capability. He may be the only one powerful enough.
He was the Homelander of the past, and so he has the best chance of killing him.
He is as invulnerable or more so than Homelander. So he has a chance to survive against Homelander. Or, best possible outcome from the boys' point of view is they kill each other.
Yeah.
You know, which is not told to Soldier Boy, but it's obviously the way Butcher thinks. You know.
Yeah.
Carl Urban does such a great job as Butcher in this show. Urban really is like the central supporting character next to Huey. And he's the driving force of the boys. He's the leader of the boys. Even if Huey is the unsung emotional leader, he's the heart of the team. But he's the reluctant hero character that most stories circle around. But Butcher is the asshole boss. He's like the yelling police chief in like Bad Boys and shit. He's the one that's just an asshole chomping on a cigar and telling people he's the J. Jonah Jameson type. But he's a real bright asshole, or to use his own language, he's a bloody cunt. But and I hate to use that term, but in this case, I'm using it in the British way of using it, not in the American derogatory term as much. It's actually almost a term of endearment out of Butcher. He means it is both good and bad, depending on how he uses it. So, The Boys is worth watching, though. It's really, but it's not for the faint of heart. If you cannot handle lots of blood or lots of other adult content,
I was
don't
gonna say
watch The
the
Boys.
Countess. I don't remember if he killed the Crimson Countess or not, but I remember it was interesting when we learned that Crimson Countess has known that he was in Russia. Like,
He
whenever
did
they're
kill.
saying,
As far as we know, he killed Crimson Countess.
yeah.
We
'Cause,
have
like,
not seen the body, but
like
it looked like
Butcher
he
and
did.
Huey was saying something to the Crimson Countess about how, after they had her tied up, they
That
said something to how
he was coming to get her.
Soldier Boy is on his way.
And she's like, "What? He got out of Moscow?"
She's like, he escaped the Russians?
He says, "How did he get out of Moscow?"
Interesting.
And I was like, "You knew?" Yes. And it was like, because they had gone to this guy called Legend, who was the talent coordinator for Vault Industries, who was there before what's her name, and he is a name dropper. Oh my God, is he a name dropper?
Yeah.
He drops everybody's name, and he had sex with everybody, male and female. He says, "Is that gay?" I don't know. I don't know. A different time.
Yeah. Do they consider that gay now? Yeah, it's a different time.
But he drops everybody's name. You can think of it, he's dropped it, and that's why he's the Legend. The Legend is a title and a rank and everything, man. And of course, he doesn't trust Butcher as far as he can throw him, which is kind of universal. Everybody seems to know Butcher thinks of him that way.
I mean, if you know Butcher, you know not to trust him. He's not a trustworthy guy.
Oh, and Kumiko, it did end up living, but now it seems like she doesn't have her powers.
Yeah, she doesn't have her powers, which
she
is
did
interesting. And I'm
finally
wondering
heal, but she's healing without her powers.
I'm wondering if Soldier Boy is going to be able to blast Homelander and take away his powers.
Yeah, because taking away his powers would mean anybody could kill him.
Yeah.
As long as, he doesn't heal like Kumiko did. But Kumiko did end up healing, but she healed dirt slow and it took a lot of medical help. And she can sort of talk now, and she even had a dream sequence where she did a musical number.
I don't think she did any speaking. I think that was all.
I think she kind of uttered a word.
Maybe.
And then it broke into the fantasy, but it might have been just all part of the fantasy.
Yeah. But then Frenchie got abducted. Like, he went to, because she was signing, after the daydream was over, she went back to signing with him or whatever, and
then his old Russian contact kidnapped him.
Oh, she kissed him. She kissed Frenchie. Then Frenchie, kind of got a little bit awkward about being kissed by Kimiko, because I guess that never happened yet. And then he says he needs to get a snack or a drink or something like that, and he leaves the room. But then while he's out of the room, he gets abducted by that
his Russian
Nina
contact
or whatever.
Nina,
that Russian lady
with the Bratva, the Russian mob people, and the Bratva. They never use the term Bratva, by the way, but that is the term for the Russian mob.
Yeah,
as we know from Arrow. If nothing else.
That's a normal name for the Russian mob, but this.
I know, but Arrow is one example.
World, it could be they could be using a different name for
right. But Arrow did tell us that was the normal name for the Russian mob, if you didn't know. I knew it from other shows, too, like Criminal Minds and stuff. But and some novels I've read. But for people like us that are all into, like, the Arrowverse, that's an easy one to point you to get the name Bratva. Anyway, the lady Nina from the Bratva wants him to basically be her assassin and kill a little child, which, I mean, he already doesn't like killing, period. And killing a child, I don't think Frenchie can go through with it.
Yeah.
But that's currently what she's going to try to make Frenchie do, and she's kidnapped him in order to do that. So that's what's building up for the next episode. And episodes of The Boys drop on Fridays on Amazon Prime. So, and Jurassic Park, just to mention that because I didn't point that out before, that is available to stream on HBO Max.
Cool.
Unfortunately, the Jurassic Worlds are not on HBO Max.
Damn.
Yeah, they're on like Spectrum or something, which you have to subscribe to.
Oh. I did rewatch the first two Jurassic Worlds before watching Dominion.
I might have them on Vudu.
But
I don't know.
I own them. Like I own.
Yeah,
the
I
first two
think I
Jurassic
might
Worlds,
have them on Vudu. I haven't looked.
Yeah, it's on Vudu is where I own them. I bought the first Jurassic World. The second one, I think I got like as a gift from somebody or something, or maybe it was on a really cheap sale. Because
I think I might have got
I
one
really
of them.
like the first Jurassic World. The second Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. I would say Fallen Kingdom is the worst of all 6 movies.
I could see that Fallen Kingdom is not the great one, but like I said when we were reviewing that in the vault, the first Jurassic Park and the first Jurassic World are the best of both individual trilogies, bar none.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's even without seeing the newest Jurassic World. I could still probably comfortably say that, and you've already kind of confirmed that, at least in your opinion, that's true. Anyway, we're going to move on because we're already over in time, so we're not going to cover Chip and Dale today. Really, though, what else do we have to cover today? Let's see. Miss Marvel.
Yes, Miss Marvel.
Okay, in Miss Marvel this week, and I'm trying to remember what happened because I didn't rewatch this either. I only watched it one time. It's unusual. Usually I get my refresher in. I didn't do that this week because I was watching an old British program most of the weekend called Good Neighbors or The Good Life, depending on which title you're using. It's an old comedy that was a favorite of my mom's. I needed something lighthearted because I know I mentioned last week that a friend of mine was in ICU. Well, she died on Friday. And so I needed something lighthearted to not think about it. Anyway, Miss Marvel, in this episode, let's see. Her friend is campaigning to be a leader of their community, of the Pakistani community.
Yeah. Her best friend is running for a leader of their church.
One of the leadership of the community mosque, and she would be the first female leader in the mosque, and that is difficult.
Yeah. Kamala practices her hard light, and like she comes up with the name hard light, and she practices like making little platforms that she's able to walk on.
Right.
Have a little montage of her sucking at that and getting gradually better.
She saves somebody again.
Near the end, there is a scene where there is some sort of an event with a whole lot of like Pakistani people getting together.
The street fair.
Yeah, like a street fair or something like that. And Kamala and her friend is trying to campaign for her, going out, giving out flyers and buttons and stuff for the election, basically. And then there's like a little kid who's like up on a clock tower or whatever, or bell tower, and he's like leaning out doing a selfie, and he slips and falls out of it, and he's like hanging for his dear life from like a cloth. And so Kamala quickly suits up and sneaks around and uses her powers to go up and catch him. And it's clumsy, but
she does end up saving him.
Yeah, she drops him on a car and he like sprains his ankle or something, but he didn't die.
Also, Chloe, her redheaded friend from school, is like taking credit for a lot of what happened in Avengers Con and acting like the soup is her best friend or whatever.
Yeah, she's pretending like she's friends with the soup, basically. She's like, she's making it all about her, really. And then,
Yeah,
but then
she's,
she gets,
she's doing that
uh,
big girl on campus thing and trying
but
to.
then she gets brought in for questioning by whatever group of people it is that is keeping an investigating this new super appearance. Also, Kamala is getting driving lessons from this this
From the new
boy
older
that
boy that she likes.
that she's this new boy that she's like infinite or immediately
Infatuated with.
infatuated with.
Yes.
And he's giving her driving lessons in this really nice car. And
Oh,
I was like, this dude,
it's like a
how does he own
Lamborghini
such a
or
nice
whatever,
car?
man. He's got like a Lamborghini or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
It's a
I
nice
think
sports car.
it's suspiciously nice for a high school kid.
Well, and then at the end of the episode, he pulls around and picks up Kamala as she's dressed in her Miss Marvel hard light costume. And, well, actually, it's not even her Miss Marvel hard light costume. It's her Captain Marvel costume, really. But they swing around, and him and his mother pick her up. And he basically says their mother has been wanting to meet her, and points out that he knows that it's Kamala. So, and then they end the episode like right there. So we know that he knows that Kamala is eventually Miss Marvel. Right now it's Hardlight, but
Yeah.
the code name is Hardlight right now. But as we know, she's going to end up being Miss Marvel.
Someone what did they call her at the school? Was it? Oh, I forget. It was some name that Kamala didn't like. It was a dumb name that someone came up. Light Up or something. Light Bright.
Yeah, something like that. And also Kamala had wanted to live stream herself doing stuff, as you know, so she could get all the likes and hits on her channel. But her best friend pointed out that secret identities are secret identities for a reason. And it would be really freaking hard for her to explain how she got all this footage and stuff without people making the connection that maybe she's the soup. And so, yeah, and that's really kind of where Miss Marvel left us this week. With a few demonstrations of her powers and with the whole political climate of the Pakistani community and the mosque, and with the climate in school with Chloe, and now with the older boy and his mother about to probably become like mentors and advisors to Kamala. And of course, with the secret investigative group that we haven't quite identified yet who they're with. I still think they're probably SWORD or something similar, but they haven't identified who they are yet.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm thinking they're probably operatives
yet.
of like SWORD or something similar. But anyway, so we're going to be going in on that. And that pretty much ends our media section for this week because we're after 10 o'clock. I have to go take a nap because I've got a date to do some late rating on some Bone Dragons in my Fractured game tonight at about 2 a.m. So I need to get a nap in before that. And I will be the special guest on a Twitch broadcast with a couple of the people from the production company that's doing the development of Fractured Online on Friday at 2 p.m. on the Gamigo Twitch channel, if anybody wants to go check that out. It's the new chapter of Elysium chapter, and I will be the special guest. So that'll be a new experience for me, guesting on somebody else's broadcast. So anyway, we're going to let everybody go. I want to wish everybody the best dice rolls as possible. I know that the Festival of Champions at Metagames starts this weekend, Sunday the 24th. So if you're interested in making a team, you still have time to do that. You can check in with Colby over at the Springfield Metagames Facebook group or the Springfield Metagames Discord and find out how to do that. We're still building up towards game. We still need people to volunteer for game in various capacities. We also would need people to run panels. If you want to run a panel, contact me directly. If you want to do anything involving electronic gaming, talk to Philip. If you want to do tabletop gaming, you want to get a hold of Greg Pullman, who handles the tabletop area. And the website is now up and running. I'm not sure if all the registration stuff's up yet, but the website has been updated. And I know that he's been running some test emails because I got one. So keep an eye out on, and that's springfieldgame.com. And if you go there, of course, like I said, you'll see the video from Chris Stewart explaining about this year. And there's some other useful links and information about stuff for the convention. Also, there's a little bit of stuff in the community about Satine Phoenix, who was a guest at our last game. And a lot of us want to just say that all of our personal encounters with Satine Phoenix, she has always been the best of possible guests, and we loved having her. And I do know that she has actually offered apologies and acts of contrition for anything she did do wrong. And, if nothing else, even if people will make mistakes, but don't we want to give people a chance to repair those mistakes? And other than that, we're going to just leave that at that. And we'll catch everybody next week. Hopefully we'll be able to go over Chippendale Rescue Rangers. But we got quite a lot. In fact, I'm saying next week we're probably going to just be all media completely because we're going to have a lot of media to cover next week.
Yeah.
I don't even think we need to necessarily do much more than like a mention of other stuff. I will try to find that one thing I was going to look for, and I don't even remember what it is right now. But I will find and give out the information for that one thing I was going to look for once I remember what it is. I'm telling you, a brain like a steel trap would already been sprung. I'm rolling really terrible on my knowledge checks right now. But may all your rolls be 20s, or if you do happen to fumble, may it be epic and the telling get bigger and more ridiculous with every retelling, because that's half the fun. Remember those combos. The more combos you get in the fighting game, the better the finishing move. Because when it's all said and done, finish him. Fatality. Good night, everybody.
See you guys. Good night.